Hey guys, welcome back to Beyond the Playbook. And today we will be looking at another Nordic nation, and that's Finland. So, women's football in Finland began gaining ground in the early 1970s, but it took some time. It took time for matches to be sanctioned, it took time for resources to be allocated, and it generally took time for belief to grow. By the 1980s, the Finnish FA began to support the women's game more formally, but even then, the growth was very slow and the spotlight was almost non existent. But all of that changed in 2005 when Finland took a massive leap. The 2005 Women's Euros in England was Finland's coming of age moment. So they were in a tough group along with Sweden, Denmark, and England themselves. Uh, they lost their game to England, but it was a very narrow loss. It was a 3-2 loss. England won via a late winner. Um, then they held Sweden to a 0-0 draw, and they then beat Denmark, I think 2-1 to make it to the semifinals. And did I mention that this was Finland's first ever major tournament appearance? Like what a way to announce yourself to the European stage, right? They then faced Germany and then lost to them, and Germany eventually went on to win the championship. But this campaign wasn't just about results for Finland because the team had now changed how women's football was perceived back home. And for the first time, the Helmarit, the women's national team, were in the national spotlight. So at the heart of this 2005 team were pioneers, players like Laura Österberg Kalmari, Finland's all-time top scorer then, and their first real global star because she played professionally across clubs in the US and in Europe. And she was breaking barriers at a time when opportunities for women were very scarce. She wasn't just scoring goals; she was setting standards everywhere she went. Um, the entire squad after that Euro tournament earned a lot of respect, and they were even nominated for Finland's Team of the Year. And for many young girls watching, it was the first time they saw football as something that they themselves could pursue. Finland then built on that success in the 2009 Euros, which was hosted by Finland itself. They reached the quarterfinals. They in their group they had the Netherlands, Ukraine, and I believe Denmark again. They beat Denmark, they beat the Netherlands, and lost out to Ukraine narrowly. But they topped the group and faced England in the quarterfinals. And again, it was a 3-2 loss to England in the quarterfinals. They again returned to the 2013 Euros and the 2022 Euros, but consistency at major tournaments has been a little elusive for this team. But still, players like Tinja Riikka Korpela, the veteran goalkeeper who's played for Spurs, I believe, uh, players like her have kept the flame alive. And she's not just a top level athlete, she's been a bold voice for gender equality and respect in the game. There was an instance where she was seen reminding the media that the women's team qualified for the Euros before the men's team, the Finland national team, I mean. So, and in a sport where visibility means everything, especially in the women's side of the game, Korpea and her teammates continued to fight battles beyond the pitch to keep this alive. Now, let's move on to Finland's women's league, right? So, in 2020, the league, which was then called the Naisten Liiga, they got a major upgrade and they were rebranded to Kansallinen Liiga, complete with a modern identity and a clear goal. And this goal was to grow the women's game in Finland with visibility, media presence, and investment. Clubs like HJK Helsinki and KuPS, which is Kuopion Paloseura, they've been developing young Finnish talent, and we've seen some of this talent on display at the Euros. HJK had players like Una Sevenius, Evelina Sumanen, and Emma Koivisto, who came out of that club and went on to play for top European clubs. From KuPS, we saw Una Siren, who's another bright talent who's making waves abroad. So another thing that's more powerful in this Helmarit community is their fans, and it's growing around the team. Young girls, families, and new fan groups are showing up, and they're here not just for the wins, but they're here for what this team stands for. And most recently in the Euros, we've seen the sea of Finnish fans who showed up in Switzerland to support their team. They were loud, they were proud, and they were present throughout Finland's campaign at the Euros. And this is proof that the movement has real momentum. So Finland's story may not be filled with medals, but it's filled with moments that matter. Players who led the way, teams that demanded respect, and a nation that's slowly but surely falling in love with women's football. So yeah, that was all about Finland. Subscribe for more stories like this on Beyond the Playbook. Thank you.